At this point, Donald Glover needs no introduction. Multi-talented, Grammy-winning, Emmy-winning, funny man, musician, and everything above. You might know him under his alias Childish Gambino, but today I want to refer to him as Donald, because in 2020 he released one of his most underrated pieces of art to date, 3:15:20, which feels like a Donald Glover album and a stray away from Childish Gambino, a death by numbers, if you will. The date is, however, important in the context of this album, because it is the date the album started streaming on his website, donaldgloverpresents.com. The album got an official release on the 22nd of March and was a little different from what fans expected. There was no album cover, only 2 songs with actual names, and the rest being named after their minute and second mark within the album's runtime. Initially, no features were listed, but this would later be changed, adding the features of Ariana Grande, 21 Savage, Inc., and Kaja Bonnet. 57 minutes and 44 seconds of music, with most of the songs running seamlessly together, which is also illustrated by the one long track uploaded to YouTube and Apple Music under the name Donald Glover Presents. To add to all this, the website also contained a letter written by Donald. The very beginning explains how he met with an oracle who predicted 3 things. Someone was going to die, he had a star on his head, and to stay close to God. The oracle was right, as Donald continues saying that someone did die, and his vision was cleared, but he couldn't touch them. He felt on his own, which before had always been enough. The letter continues saying he met with the oracle in a different form, and she asked him, "How long do you think people wait?" Which Donald responds was, "As long as they need to." And the oracle tells him, they're not going to wait forever. Which seems to explain why the album was suddenly dropped out of nowhere with no prior promo. If you haven't listened to the album, I'd highly suggest you do so, but I want to talk about every track real quick to get into some thoughts and ideas, and I'll be telling you little pieces of info about tracks where necessary. And I'm also going to be giving every track a name, as that both makes it easier to remember and plays into a theory I'm going to talk about a little later. Track 1, 0.00, also known as We Are, is the intro track, which simply repeats the saying "we are" for the whole duration, while the production sounds ethereal and almost heaven-like. It's like a weird combination of Donda's chant from Donda and the library from Because the Internet. Track 2, Algorithm, is the first track to have an actual name, a track all about capitalism and how the world has created an algorithm which isn't sustainable. The production is industrial, airy, and sort of scary, and the song was teased during his This Is America tour, but was slightly changed from that version. Track 3, Time, featuring Ariana Grande, sees Donald being his normal existential self, with talks about how we have limited time on Earth, and this one continues with the industrial sounding drums, but has a much happier beat. It also features for a little bit in Donald's 2019 film Guava Island, where a couple of children sing the chorus in a church. Track 4, 12:38, features 21 Savage, Inc. and Kaja Bonnet, and seemingly sees Donald taking mushrooms, having fun, and catching feelings for a girl. This song has a groovy R&B feel to it, and it's all over the place, but is somehow the most popular song from the album. There's a small reference to Because the Internet through the line, "My ex on some BS, she walked out the closet." But other than that, most of this, what Donald says on the track, is very nonsensical and fun. And while 21 Savage continues the fun tone, he also points out police harassment. Track 5, 1910, also known as Beautiful, explores the beauty of being black and desirable black culture, This is also contrasted with the fact that being beautiful and desirable isn't always a win, as Donald sings, "To be beautiful is to be hunted." The transition between vibrations and beautiful is one of my favourite things from the album, and reminds me a lot of how Riot from Awaken My Love just comes out of nowhere. Track 6, 2419, also known as Sweet Thing. This song talks about his thankfulness for his partner who's been there for him through tough times. And towards the end of this, we get this eerie panting, which sort of sounds like waking up in a cold sweat. And this transitions into track 7, 3222, also known as Warlords. This is a huge turning point for the record. We heard Donald screaming to an inaudible sense. The song's also named wrong because it technically starts at 3218 and not 3222, and the production is very tribal and aggressive. Track 8, 3531, also known as Littlefoot Bigfoot, a song that continues the theme of Donald making happy songs about selling drugs, like on Pink Toes from Because the Internet. But this time he's reflecting back to selling drugs as a kid and how life in humanity isn't fair. The production sounds like something that could have been children's music, had the lyrics been a bit more child-friendly. Track 9, 3928, also known as Why Go to the Party, continues the questioning of who we are and why we do what we do. And this song sounds like it's inspired by Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody. The production is very minimal, with mostly just use of Donald's voice. Track 10, 4226, also known as Feels Like Summer, a song which most people have already heard from the summer pack he dropped in 2018. The song talks about climate change and how we're destroying the earth, but hidden in plain sight with the summery production. Track 11, 4948, also known as The Violence, continues the themes of societal danger throughout the album, but underlines the importance of living in the now. Donald's son Legend gets a cameo at the end of the song, and talks about love and who he loves, which ends in a wholesome moment of self-love. Track 12, 5249, also known as Under the Sun, embraces the happy thoughts of the violence and tells us to celebrate living right now, telling his children that there is love in every moment. And the character development is quite crazy, as he admits to loving himself, which for any Donald fan is a stark difference from Donald on Because the Internet. He does this usual screaming thing while the phrase "do what you want to do" is repeated until the track ends with a small beep, a quieter version of the beep we hear at the beginning of We Are. And that's the end of the album. Most of the tracks transition into each other perfectly, or nearly perfectly. And while I think Under the Sun is a great closing track, it doesn't feel like the end of the project. Donald's note expresses how this is the first book, and how he will express, write, and sing you, whatever you is in this situation. And I'm going to assume this you is speaking about life itself. Donald wants to express it, and one of the theories I have, he very much expresses that. The album opens up with a nearly 3-minute long segment of ethereal sounding music where the phrase "we are" is repeated. I believe the use of the constant repetition could be hinting towards a major sentiment of the album. Call this the "we are" theory, if you will, because a lot of the album centers around the introspective topics which are related to all humans. So if we put "we are" in front of the titles, it sort of works. We are time, we are warlords, we are the violence, and we are under the sun, just to mention a few. But then you might be asking, what about the ones that don't work? Well, the title doesn't always reflect the idea of the song. So for Sweet Thing, we are thankful. Littlefoot Bigfoot, we are unfair. Why go to the party could be we are confused. And finally, Feels Like Summer, we are destruction. because we are all these things, and we are humans. The album reflects on life itself, the fact that we have little time to live, how life is unsustainable, but also how there is love in every moment, and to love yourself, which again brings us back to the note. Throughout this album, Donald has expressed a lot of grief because, like he said in the note, someone died. That someone was his dad, and there are multiple references to his father on the album, which makes me think this album is dedicated to him. And to continue off that, the album emulates, if intentional or not, the different stages of grief. The 5 stages of grief start off with denial. Donald is reflecting on the algorithm that is life and how little time we have left on algorithm and time, but ultimately decides to take mushrooms and have fun on vibrations. This ends up bringing him to thoughts of beautiful black culture on Beautiful, and how his partner's been there and helped him through this period on Sweet Thing. Then the turning point, anger. This is mentioned in the note as Donald said he woke up sobbing after seeing his father hold his unborn child in a dream. And I believe this is told through the album with the heavy panting at the end of Sweet Thing, which then goes into the screaming tribal music we hear on Warlords. We go into the bargaining phase with Littlefoot Bigfoot as Donald reminisces about what his dad taught him as a child and how hard life is. This continues on Why Go to the Party as he questions why we do what we do. And as Donald says in the song, grief is a standing ocean. I never swam unless you did. So I don't know why I'm here without you. I miss you. This song also serves as the beginning of the depression, which feels like summer continues with its underlining of climate change and how the world is on a harsh decline. And then finally, the acceptance comes in the sense of the violence, where he finds solace in his family. And it also feels like this song is Donald convincing himself that it's going to be fine, because he's looking at his children and believes in the future of humanity, which is then displayed on the final track, Under the Sun, where he finds love with himself while also reminding his children and himself that there is love in every moment. So for final thoughts, I find this album to be amazing. I loved it the first time I listened to it, and I love it even more after diving into it. 2 years ago, the pandemic started. We didn't know what would happen, and now 2 years later, I believe this is Donald's most honest and personal album. He said himself that he thinks this is his best work yet, but I'm not sure if we've seen his best musical work yet. This is, like the note said, only the first book. And he also said his next album is going to be his biggest to date. So I'm only calling this project his unfinished masterpiece, because I believe the other parts will make it into his greatest musical achievement yet. But I guess time will tell. And finally, I want to say that it's very fitting that the album is released under the Donald Glover Presents name, because that's also the name of Donald Glover Sr. May he rest in peace. Thanks so much for checking out this video. Go listen to 3:15:20 and please subscribe if you like this. Other than that, have a good day and I'll see you soon.